Fanta is one of the most recognizable soft drink brands on Earth. It is sold in more than 190 countries and appears in an astonishing range of flavor variations with well over 200 versions released across different markets. To most consumers, it looks like the kind of product that must have been designed deliberately inside a corporate laboratory, refined through taste testing, and launched with a clear long-term strategy. Yet the source text begins by overturning that assumption. Fanta, it argues, was not born from abundance planning or innovation in the comfortable modern sense. It was born from shortage. More specifically, it emerged inside wartime Germany after a trade embargo cut German Coca-Cola operations off from the syrup they had previously imported from the United States. That origin matters because Coca-Cola as a corporation is built around one of the most powerful brand promises in modern commerce: sameness. A Coke in one country is supposed to reassure the drinker with familiar identity and recognizable taste. Fanta, by contrast, is a brand whose modern global life is defined by variation. The source treats this as one of the strangest paradoxes in the soft drink world. The brand that began because there were no proper ingredients left eventually became the brand that can become almost anything depending on where it is sold. Orange in one country, grape in another, peach or melon or yogurt somewhere else. Same name, radically different liquid. The story becomes even more interesting because Coca-Cola has had good reason not to foreground this origin in its advertising. Fanta's first version emerged in a deeply compromised historical setting, Nazi Germany under wartime scarcity, managed by Coca-Cola's local operation after direct trade with America was cut off. The formula reportedly came from what the source calls the leftovers of the leftovers, a phrase that captures both the desperation of the situation and the improvised nature of the drink itself. Apple pomace whey from cheese production and beet sugar were assembled not because they formed an elegant recipe, but because they were the ingredients still available. What survived from that moment was not the recipe, not the color, and not the taste. It was the name. From the beginning then, the source is not just explaining how Fanta is made, it is exploring how brands separate themselves from inconvenient history. Fanta today is cheerful, brightly colored, playful, and global. Fanta, at its origin, was cloudy, improvised, and tied to wartime scarcity. The tension between those two identities is the engine of the story. To understand modern Fanta properly, the source suggests you have to hold both truths at once: the polished multinational product on today's shelves and the emergency substitute drink invented under blockade when almost nothing else could be made. Coca-Cola entered Germany in 1929, and according to the source, the person most responsible for building its position there was Max Keith. He developed the German operation from the ground up, expanding it rapidly over the next decade until sales rose from roughly 100,000 cases to 4.5 million per year by 1939. That growth matters because it shows that Coca-Cola was not a marginal foreign curiosity in Germany by the eve of war. It was already a substantial business with infrastructure, market presence, and local management capable of operating at scale. In other words, when the war disrupted supply, the problem was not how to launch a beverage company from scratch. The problem was how to keep an already successful one alive after its essential input disappeared. Everything changed once the geopolitical situation hardened. When the United States entered the war in 1941, trade embargoes and naval blockades cut Germany off from American Coca-Cola syrup. By 1942, the supply had been exhausted. At that point, Keith faced a two-part threat. First, there was the basic operational crisis: no syrup meant no Coca-Cola, and no Coca-Cola meant factories sitting idle. Second, there was the political danger. In wartime Germany, a foreign-owned industrial operation without a viable product risked seizure by the state. The source frames Fanta's creation as the answer to both pressures at once. The drink was not developed because the company wanted innovation for its own sake. It was developed because the existing business needed anything it could still produce domestically under blockade conditions. This makes Fanta's birth different from the typical origin story of a global consumer brand. Usually the narrative is one of invention focus groups, marketing insight, or technical breakthrough. Here, the origin is improvisation under duress. Headquarters could not send instructions that solved the underlying logistical collapse. Raw materials were constrained by war. The German operation had to look inward at local leftovers, industrial byproducts, and whatever sweetening agents remained available. The source uses this moment to show how brand continuity can survive even when product continuity disappears. Coke's German business needed a drink to keep bottling lines running and shelf presence intact, even if that drink had almost nothing in common with Coca-Cola itself. In that sense, Fanta began less as a beverage concept than as a survival strategy. The name would later become bright, playful, and child-friendly. But at birth, it belonged to a desperate effort to keep a multinational company functioning inside a closed, wartime economy. That historical pressure explains why the first formula sounds so strange. It was never meant to be ideal, it was meant to be possible. The formula that emerged from that crisis was, by modern soft drink standards, deeply unglamorous. The source describes it as being made from the leftovers of the leftovers apple pomace, from cider pressing whey, left over from cheese production, and beet sugar, which was one of the few sweeteners still available domestically under wartime conditions. This was not fruit soda in the way modern consumers would recognize it. It was cloudy, yellowish-brown, mildly sweet, and apparently far from delicious. But it had carbonation. It could be bottled. And most importantly, it could be made from ingredients that were still accessible inside a Germany cut off from imported Coca-Cola syrup. That alone was enough to give it a purpose. The naming story captures the improvisational nature of the whole enterprise. According to the source, Keith told his employees to use their imagination, and a salesman answered with a shortened form of the German word, fantasy Fanta. The name outlasted every material part of the original beverage. The apple waste disappeared. The whey disappeared. The color disappeared. The taste disappeared. But the name survived because it was flexible, memorable, and detached enough from the drink itself to be repurposed decades later for something entirely different. By 1943, the wartime version of Fanta had reportedly sold around 3 million cases. That sales figure matters not because it proves the drink was beloved in the modern branding sense, but because it shows the product fulfilled a real function in an economy defined by scarcity. The source notes that housewives sometimes poured it into soups as a sugar substitute because real sugar was rationed. That detail is revealing. It tells us that the original Fanta was not primarily a pleasure-driven soft drink in the way modern orange soda is marketed today. It could function as an ingredient, a sweetness source, and a practical substitute in a system where choices were constrained and household resourcefulness mattered. In some kitchens, it may have been more useful than enjoyable. This section is essential because it prevents the reader from imagining a straight line between wartime Fanta and the bright orange soda now sold around the world. There is no such continuity beyond the name. The original drink belonged to a moment of industrial desperation, material scarcity, and political tension. It existed because a factory needed to stay active, consumers needed something purchasable, and ingredients were limited to what could be scavenged from byproducts and local sweeteners. If modern Fanta carries any true inheritance from that first version, it is not flavor, formula, or appearance. It is adaptability. Fanta began as a beverage assembled from whatever remained. That logic of flexibility, stripped of its wartime hardship, would later become the defining strength of the brand. The war ended, but the first Fanta did not become the permanent future of the brand. According to the source, Max Keith surrendered every factory trademark and wartime profit back to Atlanta after the conflict, and Coca-Cola later promoted him to lead European operations. The original wartime Fanta was discontinued in 1949. That detail is important because it confirms what the earlier sections imply. The first Fanta was a temporary survival drink, not a product the company wanted to preserve as the enduring face of the brand. Once normal corporate control resumed, the improvised beverage that had kept the German business alive no longer fit the image Coca-Cola wanted to project. The modern version of Fanta emerged later and in a different country altogether. In 1955, a bottler in Naples reformulated the drink using local oranges. And this orange-based version is what Coca-Cola ultimately bought and developed into the Fanta most people recognize today. That means the global orange soda known as Fanta was born in Italy, not Germany, even though it inherited the same name as the wartime product. The source is explicit about the disconnect. The modern drink shares a name with the original and essentially nothing else. The continuity is linguistic, not material. This distinction matters because modern branding often compresses history into something smoother than reality. Consumers like to imagine that famous products evolve gradually from their origins, preserving a core identity along the way. Fanta resists that story. Its first version was cloudy brownish, improvised and tied to wartime scarcity. Its later successful version was bright orange forward sweet and designed for peacetime consumer appeal. What linked them was not recipe development, but brand salvage. Coca-Cola did not refine the old Fanta into the new one. It reused the name for a drink that could actually succeed internationally under normal commercial conditions. The source treats this as one of the strangest aspects of Fanta's history. A product born out of shortage became a brand defined by abundance. A name invented because a manager told his staff to use their imagination was later attached to a cheerful exportable soda that could sit comfortably inside Coca-Cola's global portfolio. In that sense, Fanta underwent not just reformulation, but reinvention. The Italian orange version did not merely improve the original. It replaced it so completely that almost no trace of the first drink remained. Once that happened, Fanta could stop being a wartime workaround and start becoming something much more powerful. A flexible international soft drink identity capable of carrying many formulas, many flavors, and many local adaptations without losing its name. Modern Fanta begins far from the bottling line in orange-growing regions rather than in the factory itself. The source explains that much of Coca-Cola's orange concentrate comes from Brazil, the world's largest producer of orange juice, with additional sourcing from places such as the Mediterranean and Florida. But Fanta is not made from fresh squeezed juice poured directly into bottles. Like many global fruit-flavored beverages, it depends on concentrate because concentrate is stable, compact, and logistically efficient. Fresh juice is bulky, perishable, and expensive to move across long distances. Concentrate solves all three problems at once. The process begins at facilities near the groves where oranges are washed, cut, and pressed. The juice is then filtered and pasteurized before being sent into an evaporator. Under reduced pressure and moderate heat, water is removed until the liquid shrinks to roughly 1/6 of its original volume. What remains is a dense orange concentrate with intense flavor and much lower transport cost. This stage matters because it explains how a fruit-based product can become global. The orange that contributes to a bottle of Fanta may be harvested months before consumption and thousands of kilometers from the final bottling plant. The drink's supply chain is therefore built on preservation and reconstitution rather than on immediacy. At the bottling plant, the concentrate is mixed back with treated water, but not just any water. The source notes that local water is purified through reverse osmosis to remove minerals and impurities that could alter taste. This is a subtle but crucial point. If a soft drink brand wants a controlled flavor profile, it cannot rely on raw municipal water quality varying from place to place. The concentrate may travel globally, but the water must be standardized before the beverage can be rebuilt. After that comes sweeteners, acids, flavor compounds, and colorings. Depending on the country, the sweetener may be cane sugar or high fructose corn syrup. Citric acid sharpens tartness. Natural and artificial flavors help shape the final sensory identity. Coloring gives the drink the vivid visual signature consumers expect. This means that modern Fanta is not a direct fruit beverage so much as a carefully engineered reconstruction of one. It begins in agricultural landscapes, passes through industrial concentration crosses, borders efficiently, and is then rebuilt locally according to market requirements. The source uses this modern process to highlight how far Fanta has moved from its wartime origin. The first Fanta was made from whatever remained. The modern Fanta is made through a globally coordinated system that can disassemble fruit into transportable components and reassemble it into market-specific soda in less than a day once concentrate reaches the plant. That transformation from scarcity improvisation to modular industrial drink architecture is one of the clearest signs of how completely the brand reinvented itself. Where Fanta becomes truly unusual as a global brand is in what happens after the concentrate reaches national bottling systems. The source emphasizes that the exact formula changes from country to country, sometimes dramatically. In Mexico, Fanta is sweetened with cane sugar. In the United States, it is commonly sweetened with high fructose corn syrup. In the United Kingdom, the drink was reformulated in 2017 so that its sugar content would fall below the threshold that triggered the country's soft drink sugar tax. In Japan, the brand has expanded far beyond orange into an enormous catalog of seasonal and regional variants, including white peach muscat, grape melon, and yogurt. In Brazil, Guaraná enters the picture. The label says Fanta in every case, but the liquid behind the name is almost never identical across borders. This is the opposite of the classic Coca-Cola strategy. Coke is built on the promise of continuity. A drinker should feel that the product carries the same identity everywhere, even if small local differences exist. Fanta operates by another logic entirely. It preserves identity through adaptation. Instead of insisting on one universal taste, it allows local markets to reshape sweetness, flavor, acidity, and even the core fruit profile to match regional expectations. That flexibility is not a side note. It is the modern essence of the brand. The source frames this as a deep irony. The drink that was originally invented because its creators had no real choice of ingredients has become the drink defined by endless choice. This also explains why Fanta can function so effectively inside Coca-Cola's global portfolio. Coke stands for sameness and reassurance. Fanta stands for playful variation. Together, they allow one corporation to occupy two emotional territories at once. One brand offers consistency, the other offers novelty. One promises that a familiar taste will follow you anywhere. The other suggests that the same name may lead to a different sensory experience depending on where you are. For a multinational beverage company, that is not a contradiction. It is strategic range. The source uses these national differences to make a larger point about branding itself. Consumers often assume that a global brand name guarantees a stable product. Fanta exposes how misleading that assumption can be. The brand is stable as language, packaging style, and broad category identity, but not as formulation. Its consistency lies at the level of recognition, not chemistry. That makes Fanta a strangely honest, modern brand. In one sense, it reveals that multinational identity can be built not only through sameness, but also through managed difference. What began as an emergency improvisation in wartime has evolved into a system where variation is not a flaw to be hidden, but the defining engine of the brand's worldwide success. After formulation, the drink moves into one of the most tightly controlled parts of the process: carbonation and packaging. The source explains that the blended syrup and water mixture is sent into a carbonator where carbon dioxide is dissolved into the liquid under pressure of roughly 3 to 4 atmospheres and at a temperature near 4 degrees Celsius. That temperature is not arbitrary. Cold liquid can hold more dissolved gas than warm liquid, which is why soft drink bottling happens under chilled conditions. Pressure keeps the gas in solution until the bottle or can is opened, at which point the pressure drops and the carbon dioxide escapes as bubbles. The underlying physics is the same as in every sparkling beverage, but the exact gas-to-liquid balance is tuned for each Fanta formula, so the carbonation matches its flavor profile and the way it is expected to be consumed in a given market. That detail matters because it shows that Fanta's variability is not limited to flavoring alone. Even the mouthfeel can be market-specific. A sweeter formula may need a different carbonation balance than a sharper, more acidic one. A version expected to be served very cold may be calibrated differently from one commonly consumed closer to room temperature. Carbonation, in other words, is not a generic finishing step. It is part of the identity engineering of the drink. The bubbles do not simply make Fanta fizzy. They help determine how the sweetness lands, how the aroma rises, and how the flavor is perceived on the tongue. From there, the drink moves rapidly into industrial packaging. PET plastic bottles are often blow-molded on site from small preforms, then filled, capped, labeled, and packed within seconds. Aluminum cans move through a parallel high-speed logic, formed, filled, and sealed even faster. Depending on the line, the source notes that bottling equipment may handle anywhere from 600 to 2,000 bottles per minute. This speed is essential to understanding what modern Fanta really is. Whatever its fruit origin, whatever its wartime history, the final product is the output of an enormous precision system built for volume, consistency, and safety. Each batch is sampled and checked for sugar content, carbonation level, color, pH, and microbial standards before shipping. The result is a peculiar brand condition. The journey from concentrate to sealed bottle can take less than 24 hours at the bottling plant. Yet the oranges involved may have been harvested months earlier and transported across oceans. The name on the package is globally recognizable, but the recipe inside depends on national choices. Fanta is therefore both highly standardized and deeply variable at the same time. Its manufacturing system is precise. Its identity is flexible. That is what makes it so strange as a global product. Same brand, same visual signal, but not necessarily the same drink. The final section of the source returns to the part of the story Coca-Cola has the least reason to celebrate publicly memory. In 2015, Coca-Cola Germany released a 75th anniversary Fanta that echoed the wartime design and referenced an authentic formula involving whey and pomace. The advertising campaign invited viewers to reconnect with the feeling of the good old times. The backlash was immediate. In Germany invoking 1940s, nostalgia is not neutral language, and critics quickly pointed out the historical context that the ad appeared to sanitize. Coca-Cola pulled the campaign and stated that Fanta had no association with Hitler or the Nazi Party. Yet, as the source notes, historical discomfort cannot be erased by corporate phrasing once the underlying facts are publicly visible. That discomfort is part of what makes Fanta's origin story so compelling. Most successful consumer products begin with a plan, a market opportunity, a test formula, a budget, a launch strategy. Fanta began with none of those things in any normal sense. It emerged from embargo blockade material shortage and a local manager trying to keep a foreign-owned bottling system alive in a nation at war. The original drink was not bright orange, cheerful, or fruit-forward. It was cloudy yellowish-brown built from byproducts, and in some cases used more as a kitchen substitute than as a pleasure drink. The modern product on supermarket shelves retains none of those physical traits. Not the ingredients, not the color, not the taste, not the use case survived. Only the name crossed intact from 1940 into the present. And that name came from a moment of improvisation. A manager told his staff to use their imagination, and someone answered with a single word derived from fantasy. That one word outlived war embargo formula, collapse reformulation, international expansion, and decades of strategic brand management. 80 years later, it sits on hundreds of flavor variants across nearly every major consumer market on Earth. The source treats that as the strangest continuity of all. Fanta is a brand whose material identity has been replaced almost completely, yet whose name became powerful enough to absorb that replacement without breaking. In the end, that is the deeper meaning of the process. Fanta was born from leftovers, desperation, and necessity. It survives today through choice variation and global adaptation. The first version existed because there was nothing else available. The modern version exists because almost anything is possible under the same name. Between those 2 points lies one of the most unusual transformations in beverage history, a wartime substitute remade into a global symbol of playful variety with only a single word, connecting the emergency drink of 1940 to the brightly carbonated brand the world knows now.